for joining. Again, this is the Refinement Phase webinar for the Nike Design with Grind Challenge to go over some of the content that we sent out to you about next steps and what the next couple weeks of Refinement Phase will look like for each of your teams. We'll do some intros to kick us off. I'm Lauren Ito. I'm the community manager for this challenge. Many of you have met me via email or comment on your post or otherwise. And so I'm very community facing, and I'll be supporting all of you through this Refinement Phase journey. We also have Chris on the line if you'd like to introduce yourself, Chris.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Chris. I'm the challenge manager with OpenIDEO. I've been working very closely with Nike and Lauren throughout the duration of this project to build it and frame it effectively, and then most importantly, work with you all to make sure that you're creating awesome prototypes and ready for success.
So all of you are very familiar with this challenge question by now. How might we create a waste-free circular future by designing everyday products using Nike Grind materials? So this was the question that each of you stepped into when you joined our challenge, and I'm just grounding us again in why we're all being brought together on this call and why we're all joining forces today. These were the materials that each of you have been designing around. We'll go more into materials specifically on a future webinar. So thank you so much for already submitting some questions in that realm. And we look forward to diving deeper into materials. A reminder that these are the materials that you've all been designing around, and hopefully have some of you have already received those material kits to start prototyping in the next phase of the challenge. In terms of where we are in the challenge, we've come a long way. We started now a very long time ago, a couple of months ago, with the ideation phase. We had about 600 ideas submitted to the platform from Mexico to Switzerland to India, and out of those, 30, after a process of review, have advanced into the refinement phase. These are ideas that were out of the 600 that we initially saw the most promising, and the ideas that we were most curious to see prototypes further in the coming weeks. The deadline for the end of the refinement phase is July 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific. So the next steps of refinement phase tasks that we'll be going over on the call today will all be due by that final date, along with sending in your prototype if you're able to send one physically to our team and the folks at Nike, which we'll again go over more in depth in this call. We will then be selecting 5 top idea winners out of this challenge that will receive some funding, as well as the potential to move into partnership with folks at Nike. And Chris will go more into what those prizes look like.
Sure. So you'll probably have seen this, but just as a reminder, as Lauren said, we'll be selecting 5 top ideas, one of which is eligible for 30K, 30,000 US, and the following 4 eligible for 5,000 US. So a little bit of seed funding there, but I think what's most exciting is the potential for partnership and ongoing relationship with Nike, pending how the ideas pan out, and especially pending scale and rollout plans. So we'll get a little bit more into requirements, but it's just good to keep that in mind as we move forward. Excellent. And so we've got also, as we're discussing what products are in scope and solutions are in scope, you've probably, again, seen this, but just wanted to run through what we'll be looking for, not only in your ideas that got you here to the shortlist through the refinement phase, but also in the ideas that we'll be selecting as winners a little bit later this summer. So first off, product. When you're thinking about your product, especially now as you're starting to get your hands on the materials and you're able to experiment a little bit, think about how you can incorporate large volumes of Nike Grind materials, or so a significant amount. So if you're looking at material compositions or the way that you're designing the actual product, think about all of those places that you can utilize some Nike Grind ideally in an upcycled fashion so that you can also keep track of how then those materials are broken down when your product ends. So second life cycle is important. Innovation, we want to see something that's just going to be a significant advance in the way waste materials can be repurposed. So we've seen a couple of questions on product type, and again, you all have landed here because you have very compelling products, and we think there's a lot of promise in your designs. But it certainly does not have to be a brand new product. It doesn't have to be something entirely new. Innovation can come in the way you're using materials, in the user experience, or the way you're designing the materials, or specifically for this challenge, in the way that you're incorporating a Nike grind into your solution. So number 3, and 4, these are really the big two that you'll be focusing on for this portion of the phase. I think, the first and second are things that you've probably already been delving into. So prototype number 3 is going to be very important. That's really the bulk of this refinement phase. We've sent you all materials, and if you haven't gotten those or haven't communicated with us about those, do reach out to us, but most of them should be on the way. And so once you receive those materials, we're really going to be looking to see what you can do with those and how you incorporate them into a usable or testable prototype. So first off, we want to be seeing just like a great representation of your product. Do you have some solid images and recording of that prototype? As we mentioned in the email, we'll get to a little bit later, we're going to be looking to potentially have you all mail these prototypes to Nike headquarters. So thinking about that early and how you might be able to ship those, and ensuring that, if we want to get these in front of some folks at Nike, we want to ensure that they're very high quality. So thinking about that. And then the other thing that we'll be looking at is some evidence of testing. So have you taken a prototype and, so either testing with a user or potential end user, if you have a consumer facing product, getting some feedback and showing us how you've incorporated that feedback into your design. Or for those of you who have a little bit more experimental material usage in your product, we want to see testing of perhaps usability, technical feasibility, performance testing, and that sort of thing. So number 4 is business, and that's business model canvas. And so many of you have already done that, submitted your business model canvas in the first phase of the challenge. If you have already submitted one, we'll be looking for a little bit of evolution in that. And so how have you gone deeper into the way you're thinking about the business model, especially in terms of revenue streams and rollout, and how can you showcase that in your sort of revamp of the business model canvas? If you haven't done one already, definitely take a look at that. We've got links in this deck that we'll share out with you, also in the email that we sent out. But business model canvas is a pretty common tool. You can find it in numerous places, and it's just a great tool for us to sort of quickly glance at and understand the business model that you're proposing. To add to the business model, we will be looking very specifically at scale and rollout plans. So how specifically, beyond this challenge, will you be prioritizing the development of your project or product R&D period? When will you start to incorporate manufacturing partners, marketing partners, whoever you need in order to make your product a reality? And then when you're talking about rollout plan, what are your proposed dates and deadlines that you'll be seeing throughout the next 6 months to a year that will really move your concept forward and get it very close, if not already ready for market? And so that's very important to Nike and judging, and we'll be looking at that closely.
The core refinement phase tasks, as again included in that initial email that you received, were to design a prototype, to create a business model canvas, a rollout plan, and then a team video, which is an optional task that we've also included. So we'll go over what each of those looks like a little bit deeper, and we've really appreciated receiving some of your questions that you had about these different tasks to inform the content that we share out.
Excellent. So as I start to get into a little bit, we can go a bit deeper. And so this content is pulled directly from the congratulations email that we sent you. So if we'll send this deck out, but if you want to reference it, you can also see it there. So again, number one task for this phase will be to design a prototype. So creating a physical mock-up or prototype of your concept. Again, include evidence of testing and iteration. So some of the questions that you can ask yourself during this process is, do the material properties support your initial hypothesis? Is your concept technically feasible? So again, many of you have proposed a certain product type to, and now you're getting your hands on the materials for the first time. So as you're starting to experiment and explore with those materials, do they perform in the way that you had presumed they may? And if not, what sort of pivots or design adjustments will you be making to accomplish those goals? Do you need to make some small adjustments in your actual product? Is the way that you were proposing, a certain type of consumer product going to have to shift, and will that product design have to alter to accommodate the materials that you've been given? Will you have to think about new or different types of adhesives that maybe you hadn't previously considered? Or will you have to go back to the drawing board? And that's all right. So if that's the case, reach out to us and just keep us informed of your progress, and we'll be doing as much as we can to support you along the way. As Lauren mentioned, we'll be doing a specific technical and material focused webinar to answer some of those more in-depth technical questions a little bit down the line, and we'll have some Nike folks joining us for that. And excellent. And then again, that third point is, have you put your product in front of end users just to get some critical feedback? And so if you aren't able to get that forward due to technical feasibility, we certainly want you to focus on technical feasibility. If you are able to get to a place where you have sort of a tangible working prototype, we'd love to see some evidence of user testing with that. And continued. So again, we'd love to review your prototypes in person. So Nike has asked that prototypes be shipped directly to their Beaverton, Oregon headquarters. We'll be providing you with a prepaid shipping label a little bit down the line, and prototypes should arrive by June 16th. So please plan your shipping accordingly. I would suggest prioritizing sort of the development of the product, getting a prototype out there, and then shipping that first before you then dive into business model or rollout plan. And that way you just know you're ahead of the game. Certainly keep us informed. We realize, of course, that we don't have control over shipping and logistics, especially around the world. So just give us a heads up when you do ship it, and if possible, share that tracking number, and we'll set up an email form to do that so that you won't be penalized if it arrives a couple of days later. Again, when you're shipping, please try to limit the size of your prototype to 1 by 1 meter squared. So this is just important for shipping costs and shipping purposes, but also so that we can receive those boxes and that Nike and ourselves can review them. And again, so we may be considering the prototypes for an internal gallery showing with Nike execs, which is pretty exciting stuff. Some amazing exposure potential there. So again, think about how to develop your prototype to a very high level of sort of visual and showmanship, again, to excite our judges as best as possible.
Thanks, Chris. So we also have as a next task, the business model canvas. As Chris mentioned, the priority focus, at least of the first couple weeks due to the shipping deadline, should definitely be on creating your prototype and making sure that that's ready to be sent to us and gathering some user feedback. We would love to see a business model canvas from you. Many of you have already completed this, which has been lovely to see, but with having some additional prototyping and additional feedback, we assume that your initial business model canvas sketch will most likely change. So if you've already done this, we encourage you to build it out more in depth. And if you haven't yet done this, we have included the resource from the Circular Design Guide to get you started. Again, this deck and all of the links included will be sent to you, so you'll have access to all of this content that we're sharing today. The Circular Design Guide resource, Circular Business Model, also provides some context for if you have not yet filled, or if you have not been through the process of filling out a business model canvas, how to do that, and some supporting mindsets to keep in mind as you fill that out. So we encourage you to look at that regardless, especially given the circular emphasis of this challenge. This is what that resource looks like. So we ask you to fill in key partners, key activities, resources, value prop, some customer relationships, channels, customer segments, revenue streams, and cost structure. We know that at this point in the challenge, some of these may be assumptions because you may not have access to all of that information yet. If you do have questions that we can support you with regarding how to fill this out more accurately or to support you in filling this out, please let us know. But we do know that there may be some assumptions baked into this model, this business model canvas, and that's okay.
Perfect. So the third task is the rollout plan, as we discussed. And so how might you roll out your concept? And we'll be looking for thoughts and strategies around R&D and what that R&D period looks like. What's your projected timeline there? You can do a lot of research just on the web, and then also we would encourage you to get out there, talk to product designers, or get out there and talk to potential manufacturing partners to better understand what that timeline might look like. Sort of a minimum viable product mock-up. Again, that's sort of the prototype, so you're good on that one. Go-to-market plan is going to be important. So once you have sort of moved through the R&D period, how will you start to consider implementing and getting your product out there into the lives of your customers? What's the strategy there? Will you start with sort of direct B2C online sales? Will you be building out Facebook or social media groups, for marketing? Will you be partnering with retailers and trying to go directly there onto the shelves of stores? So put a little thinking behind that, and please show evidence of that consideration. So the manufacturer development plan, again, similar to the R&D period, is get out there, chat with manufacturers, do a little bit of research, and try to gain a realistic understanding of how long this will take and what the turnaround time is with manufacturing partners. So material volumes by date. So I think that's meant to note when along a timeline will you need large injections of materials from Nike to support your R&D process or your development or go-to-market process. And then specific material types. So as you're testing and playing with some of these materials, which ones are really landing and resonating with your particular product, and start to note those so that we can, moving forward, if you proceed as a top idea, you'll be able to very quickly target the exact material types that you're going to need from Nike. So the most important thing here also to think about is how to present this information. So Lauren will share a link a little bit later. And again, it's been shared in the email, but where to submit all of this information. And a helpful way that you may be able to structure this rollout plan is to start thinking about a timeline and then move backwards. So say, okay, where do we want to be in a year from now? And how will we achieve, that goal? So if we were going to be on the shelves, at a retailer in a year, in 6 months, where do we need to be in order to do that? In 3 months, where do we need to be? In 2 months after the challenge, what do we need to have accomplished in order to help get us to that end goal? So that could be a really helpful way to present that. We're not setting any specific way that you need to share that information. A visual timeline is great. An outline, a business plan or rollout plan in written form is also great. So whatever works sort of for your style, but please do be thorough and certainly take the steps to share as much information as possible.
The fourth task that again is optional for this challenge is to submit a team video. This could look like a lot of different things. The main goal of having this option is so that the folks at Nike and our team can get to know you, who you are, what brings you purpose, why you decided to join this challenge, and a little bit of a behind the scenes glimpse into your process during the refinement phase and what that looks like. So we encourage you, if you have the bandwidth, this can be on an iPhone, it can be something scrappy and quick. The fidelity of this does not need to be by any means perfect, but we encourage you to take a quick team video to share the stories of some of the individuals on your team. How did you all meet? What all drew you to this challenge? What are your backgrounds and what does that look like? We'd also be really excited to hear a little bit about how your idea for the challenge was born. What pivoted you to joining this challenge and what was most exciting or resonant? Another thing that you could share is what inspired your team to join, the challenge and to show, again, some behind the scenes glimpses into your refinement phase process. So maybe that's your team at a meeting, maybe that's your team actually going out into the field with your initial prototype and receiving some feedback from individuals. Maybe that's your team in the shop and starting to cut up the Nike grind materials that you've received. Any way to provide us with more of a glimpse into who you are and your process, we'd love, love, love to see that. This is the link that you'll be submitting your refinement phase responses to. So that's all of the content that we've just gone over. Your business model canvas, some information about your prototype, your rollout plan, and then the optional team video. So you'll go to this link and we have a submission form. We do encourage you to at least sketch what you're going to fill into this form, potentially on a Google Doc or whatever workflow process works best for your team, before actually going in and copy and pasting that information into the form itself. You can look at it ahead of time, and we actually highly encourage you to look at the questions and, again, the format that those are asked in, so you can best start to prepare what your submission will look like. And those do need to be submitted by the final deadline, which is July 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific, which you will hear many times from us between now and the end of the refinement phase. We also wanted to take a moment to talk about the community prototyper program that we have for this challenge. Many of you have already been in touch with or met with your community prototypers. And so we wanted to provide you with some additional information beyond what's already been said to you in the email communications that I've sent out regarding how to work together and a little bit around what this looks like. So this is the classic design thinking prototyping process diagram as to what this refinement phase process may feel like. And at this point, we're definitely towards the beginning of the squiggle. The community prototypers will function, or it's a program that's primary function is to support you in prototyping your idea and also completing your refinement phase tasks. They will work with you as an embedded team member. So we've paired you with a community prototyper that, based on some of the gaps that you have in your team, as well as some of the challenges that you foresee your team encountering as you move through the next weeks with us in the refinement phase. We've paired you based on that information. So these prototypers are designers, are folks that come from the business world, are folks that have a variety of expertise and a variety of strengths that they bring into the challenge. So our pairings between your particular team and the community prototypers have been very intentional to support, one, the things that prototypers are excited to lean into and the strengths and the expertise that they're excited to bring, and how that can complement, again, some of the gaps that you foresee in your refinement phase upcoming weeks. They will function as an embedded team member and work alongside you and your team throughout the design process. This can look like a variety of different things. Because this program is virtual, the prototyper will most likely not be able to work with you or collaborate with you in person, but we encourage you to communicate through video calls and at least once a week, as well as any other type of communication to support your workflow and to support that process. They have committed 4 to 6 hours each week to supporting you, and all of those who have already been paired with their community prototyper have also committed 4 to 6 weeks to working alongside them. They'll also be really helpful as a thought partner with you through this process. Again, our community prototypers bring so much expertise and so much knowledge from working as designers, entrepreneurs, consultants in their own lives. And so ask them what strengths they're most excited to bring to the table and how that can support your team in accelerating your process. Additionally, they can provide prototyping support if that's something that's of interest. Prototyping support may look like sketching some user journeys or supporting you to think more about who your consumer segments might be and how to work backwards around their needs and design from that place. So think of them as an additional guide and an additional team member to support you in prototyping as well. And then lastly, when it comes to submitting your refinement phase tasks, your team will own that process. However, the community prototyper can definitely step in and support as a collaborator in creating some of those additional assets. So that's more of a discussion around communication, workflow process, and what that might look like. Your team clearly articulating what needs you foresee in the coming weeks, and given, again, the community prototyper's expertise and strengths, how they can lean in with their strengths to support you in that process. We've also provided some refinement phase tools in this toolkit in this presentation that you may want to take a look at as you go into your next couple weeks. There are the links for each of these embedded in this presentation. The first is systems to receive feedback. So incorporating systems to receive feedback on your refinement phase process to support iteration. So how might you embed some feedback loops in your design process to best support that? Additionally, it may be helpful to create a user experience map to, while building out your prototype, to get a better sense of what is the journey of someone interacting with your product and how can we best support that. And then lastly, the circular design guide is your core resource throughout this entire challenge. It's a great step-by-step guide for the circular economy and for circular design, mindsets, methods, material considerations, etc., and is a great place to dive in with your team if you have questions around circularity and the design process related to that. Additionally, we've heard that you have some questions around examples from past challenges. So these are some ideas that we would encourage you to take a look at from the Circular Design Challenge that explored redesigning plastics and addressing circular solutions for plastic packaging. We've also included some additional links from the New Life Challenge, the Higher Ed Challenge, and the Small Scale Farmers Challenge, all of which are mostly product facing. So you can get a sense of, at the end of this refinement phase process, what might my ideal look like? What are some ways that other teams and other challenges have received feedback? And how can you use that as inspiration for some of the processes that your team might have to? Chris, do you want to touch on the refinement?
Excellent. Sorry, we got a little shuffling on the mics. If you could mute your mics while you listen, it helps everyone's experience. Perfect. So yes, so the refinement questions as mentioned, again, Lauren shared the link and we've got that in the email we sent you as well. But the refinement questions will be answered on an external form rather than on the platform. And we designed this to sort of provide an opportunity for you all to share what's inevitably a bit more sensitive rollout plans, business models and pricing models. So you can share that privately without opening it up to the full public for review. So we've got a link, it's an external form, and you'll simply fill out the questions that we've included on those forms, as well as there are also opportunities to upload files. So when you answer those questions, you'll run through the form and then you can upload any attachments, files, images, videos that you've created to support your proposal. So again, we just ran through a lot of information, and so I think it could help to boil it down into sort of 4 simple tasks as we did. So when we share out this deck, make sure to look at sort of that top 4 asks that we're requiring for this phase, and then set a bit of a plan. So, we're on a pretty quick timeline, and so you've got a few weeks here to really develop a prototype, develop a scale and a rollout plan, and get those questions submitted. So as you're working with your prototyper or on your own, again, it could be helpful to set a timeline and work backwards. So knowing that you need questions submitted by July 16th and knowing that you need to ship your prototype a few days prior to that, how can you work backwards and make sure that you're hitting all of those steps along the way? Next slide, Lauren. Perfect. So refinement phase deadline is July 16th at 5 p.m. Pacific time. So set that on your calendars so that you can ensure ample time to get those questions submitted. Another helpful strategy for when you're submitting the questions on the form is, so the submission form is it's a survey. And so you've got to run through every question. You can't save your answers. So it might be helpful to pull those answers out into an external document so that you can work on those and continue to edit them over a few days and then submit your final answers directly to that form. Just save you a little bit of a headache in case you lose some information there. Excellent. And so before we jump into Q&A, I thought since we have everybody here, it might be great to do a quick round of intros. And I know we have a couple of special guests that just joined us as well. So let's maybe do around the room introductions, and we'd love to hear from you, all of our team mates. And I think first off, would love to introduce, it looks like they're almost ready, Henry and Eric from the Nike team who just joined. And let's see, I think they're still figuring out some audio. Let's give them a couple minutes. And how about we have some of the folks around that are joining us from our short teams, you all. So do we want to start out with Manisha? You're muted, Manisha.
Sorry. Hi, I'm Manisha. I'm currently in New Delhi, India. I'm a product designer and I work on medical devices. I am one of the community prototypers and I'm very excited to be here.
Excellent, thanks. I'm just going to run down the line in the order that I've got them. So it looks like Taru.
Hi, this is Taru. Can you hear me? Is the mute off now?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can
hear you.
Oh, hi. So I work for Architects for Society, and I'm a development director, and I'm mostly grant writing, proposal writing. So I was the main person also doing the proposal for this project. So yeah, that's it. And then I have we have a big group of designers and researchers also who are more focused on the prototype testing and development.
Excellent. And Taru, which idea is yours?
We design housing for, let's say, people in need. Mm-hmm. So we are proposing to recycle the material in our housing product.
Excellent. Wonderful. And we're very excited to see your progress.
Thank you.
Keep cruising. Anne-Louise, looks like you're next in my order at least.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Hi, I'm Anne-Louise. I'm from Copenhagen in Denmark. I'm also one of the community prototypers, and I have a background in industrial product design, and now I'm working with digital service design. And I can't wait to get started with this and see who I get paired with.
Excellent. Yeah, and I know we'll have some updates today on that.
Exactly.
Excellent. Ezgi?
Hi everyone, this is Ezgi here. I'm from Istanbul and my background is also industrial product design. I develop games. I'm a game designer for TV production, and I'm a community prototyper as well. And same here, I can't wait to get started and be paired with a team. I'm really excited.
Excellent, thanks Ezgi. So I'm just going to keep cruising on the grid as it shows up on my screen. Vishal?
Hi, I'm Vishal. I'm industrial product designer. I'm calling in from Delhi, India, and I'm paired with Chindi as a community prototyper, and I'm very excited to work with them.
Excellent. Let's hear from Tammy.
Hi, Tammy. I'm working with Covington and Mark, and we are working on the Nike bumper plates, grind bumper plates. And yeah, we're paired with Philippe, I believe, for our rapid prototyper. and we're excited.
Excellent. Thanks, Tammy. Just cruising right along. Let's hear from Emily.
Hey guys, this is Emily here. I'm on a balcony in Hilton Head Island, South Carolina on vacation. And I'm representing Team Hegemon. We're creating a hedgehog-inspired shock damping liner for transport cases. We've got a team of 4. I think some of the other team members are on the call. So hi from South Carolina. We're based in Cleveland though.
Excellent. Thanks, Emily. Skylar, over to you.
Hi everyone, I'm Skylar Erickson. I'm currently in Denver, Colorado. I've got a background in design engineering, specifically with regards to sustainable technologies for community development. So I'll be joining as a community prototyper.
Perfect. Let's move then next to Shiva. Did we just lose? Like may have just dropped out. So Tugsi, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce your iPad.
Yeah, sorry. That it pronounced like two and che.
Tuche, perfect.
Yeah, tuche. Yeah. Yeah, but no worries. It's a tough one. So I'm calling from the west coast of Turkey. It's a rainy day. I'm one of the community prototypers as well. My background is in product design, but I went a little bit far away from the product design and did a master's degree in curating contemporary design. So I'm really excited to be part of the challenge, and I look forward to meeting my team, which is already, I think I already paired. So I'm excited about it.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And Shiva, sorry about that. Looks like you're with us after all.
Hey, hi. I'm a product designer and also an electronics engineer. I did my product designing as a master's. Currently, I am working on educational products for kids. And I'm already paired with the team, which is Night Grind Composite Board by Caleb Grunge. And I'm looking forward to working with you people. So amazing.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And moving on to Mark.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Mark. I'm in San Diego, and I'm calling in from the beach. It's a beautiful day. And I'm fortunate to work with Tammy and Covington on Nike Grind bumper plates, and super excited to be here. And thank you, Chris, for having us.
Awesome. Thanks, Mark. Moving right along to Bill.
Hi, this is Bill, also from San Diego. And I'm
Thanks, Bill. Moving on to D Page.
Hello, this is Doug. Also another Hegemon team member with Bill and Emily, so you understand our product, and I'm also an industrial designer and an educator.
Excellent. Thanks, Doug. Jared.
Hi, Jared Byrne. I'm currently in Tempe, Arizona. I have a background in consulting and entrepreneurship, and specifically just finished my master's degree in service design and customer experience strategy. Excuse me, I'm one of the prototypers as well, and I'll be working with Recover.
Excellent. Thanks, Jared. And lastly, Covington.
Hi, I'm Covington. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'm working with Mark and Tammy on the Nike Grind bumper plates, and I'm excited to be here and see how all these different ideas evolve.
Excellent. Thanks so much. And did I forget anyone? Marielle, maybe.
Yep. Hey guys. So I'm Mariel. I'm finishing up my master's degree in product design as well, and I'm one of the community prototypers working with Mafia Bags, and they are doing modular tiles for retail and event displays. So really excited to kind of pair circular principles with design and get going on this.
Excellent. Perfect. Anybody else that didn't get the chance to introduce themselves? Sort of jump in if you haven't. Okay, cool. So we'll jump over to Henry and Eric of Nike, and I'll let them introduce themselves.
Hey, can you hear us?
Yep.
Yes, but not yes. How's it going, guys? Yeah, this is Henry and Eric's here as well, and we're pumped to be on the call with you guys and really excited to see what you guys came up with over the last couple of months for your presentation. So now we're just kind of ready to see what you rock and roll with the materials in hand, and we're pretty excited for this phase. So congratulations and thanks for all the effort, really.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. And yeah, we'll be, as we mentioned, doing a bit more of a sort of technical and materials focused content support activity a little bit down the line. So we'll keep you posted for that one. And as you're starting to progress, please do just continue to send us any questions that you've got. So as you're starting to explore the materials or, you know, building out those prototypes and you're having some technical questions that arise, just send them over, and we're going to start to keep a log of those questions and do our best to start to answer those a little bit down the line. Perfect. And back to you, Lauren, so we can, speaking of questions, start to run through the Q&A that we've got set up. So Lauren will take us through that. So a couple of you have already been submitting questions. We've pulled out some of the ones that we thought were either asked numerous times or highly relevant for the immediate next steps here.
Great. So the first question that we received that I would love to hear your thoughts on, Chris, is should we be developing new ideas from scratch or only improving existing product ideas for the refinement phase?
Sure. Yeah, so I think we chatted about that a little bit earlier today, but really we're interested in innovative products. They don't have to be new. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. They certainly can be entirely new. But what we're really looking for, most importantly, are compelling products that are going to utilize Nike Grind materials effectively and at scale. And so, you know, you all have been selected to move on to this phase because we did find your product idea compelling, and there was something there that we thought was worth exploring and had high potential. So first and foremost, we would just encourage you to continue with the exploration into the product idea that you've developed for this phase. And then again, as we mentioned earlier, if you do find you need to make some drastic pivots, due either to material feasibility or technicality, and how it applies to your product, reach out to us and we'll have a chat about what the best way to pivot your concept is. But for now, definitely continue exploring down the line of the product that was selected to move on to the show.
Another question was regarding refinement phase examples. Do we have access to examples of refinement phase evolution from previous challenges? The answer is very candidly yes. You can go on our platform, openideo.com, and look at any of the past challenges that we've run with these partners. And you can look at everything from the ideas phase to the refinement phase to which top ideas were selected. So we highly suggest that as you think about what your prototyping might look like and how you might, as Chris spoke to, share those, share and present that with us. Looking at past ideas from other challenges is a great place to start. Also inspired by this question, we have included examples, product-related examples in this presentation. So we highly encourage you to look at the specific examples from previous challenges that we've highlighted in this deck to give you an idea of a great place to start for some inspiration. The next question is what counts as an MVP?
Excellent. So what counts as minimum viable product here? So again, as mentioned, if you run through the asks that we have of the prototype, it's something tangible that we're going to be able to interact with. But I'd actually love to send that question over to Henry and Eric and see what Nike has to say about that one.
Hey guys, Eric here. I am Director of Open Innovation for Nike Sustainable Business Innovation, and let me first just say, reiterate what Henry said earlier. We're just really excited to be working with you guys. We're blown away by all your ideas and are really excited to see the development of these MVPs. So minimally viable product for us
we really want to see a proof of concept, as Chris mentioned, in a tangible way. Nike culture is very much a culture, and for us to be able to conclude this competition with a judging panel that's able to look at physical specimens of your creativity, I think would be really a wonderful way to showcase what we're able to do through open innovation.
Excellent. Thanks, Eric. Yeah, that's great. So, again, just it's so exciting that the judges and Nike will be able to review your prototypes in person. That's not something that's always been done for Open IDEO challenges, and it's just a great bonus and a value add. So the more that you can consider that part of the process into the way you're designing and building those prototypes, I think that the better the outcome will be.
Hey, Chris, let me jump in. One other thing, just a thought that we were having is that, physical prototypes aren't the only proof of concept that are valuable as well. We'd be interested if you guys, want a 30 or 60-second video kind of highlighting your idea, your team, your inspiration process, and your product. Those kinds of showcases of innovation are also really valuable to us.
Awesome, that's a great point. Perfect. And Lauren, let's tee up next question.
The other question we received was, what should be the expected outcome for our working with community prototypers? What is the typical scope of this relationship? We went over this a little bit earlier on in our conversation today, but the expected outcome of your working relationship should be to accelerate the rate at which you can reach completion of the refinement phase task with the help of someone that brings expertise and another mind to your team. Something that we've found through the process of open innovation is that bringing together different minds for collaboration accelerates the innovation process. The community prototyper program is one way to support your team with an outside perspective that comes from with a complementary skill set in best accomplishing, again, those refinement phase tasks. And what is the typical scope of this relationship? So we've seen the community prototyper pairing is committed to working with you for the duration of the refinement phase. There is nothing beyond the refinement phase that would call on you two to work together. We do see the community prototyper typically functioning as a highly embedded member of your team. They're joining team meetings sometimes and taking pieces of ownership over elements of process. So if you would really find that developing a user journey is essential for your process in terms of the storytelling around your idea and developing some great assets to share with Nike and our team what you've been up to and what your product may look like and who may resonate most with the product. The community prototyper, if they have a skill set, can support you in leading to that. But we're happy to answer more questions around that, and you can send those to us as they arise in this process. The next question is, can a prototype focus on a specific characteristic of the product? So the answer is yes, but I think as we've spoken more to prototyping on this call and with the input from Eric around that as well, prototyping, we're excited to see your prototypes in person. We're also excited to see them shared in other ways with us. So if there is, we would love to see specific characteristics of your product showcased, but also what your product would look like in the market. Chris, would you like to build on
that? Yes, so I think that's a great answer, and actually would love to hear Eric and Henry's thoughts on that one as well. So, Eric, as they're building out their prototypes, we're certainly looking for technical modeling and feasibility. But if for instance, a team really needs to focus on a specific characteristic of the product because that it has a longer timeline of experimentation or development, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that seems like a reasonable approach. I think in a lot of cases when folks especially are talking about things like products for the built environment or large scale prototypes, proof of concept that you can get to the type of material makeup that's required for those kinds of products. I think that makes a lot of sense, and I'm sure there's lots of other examples like that I'm not thinking of. Yeah, we're totally open to characteristics of the product being prototypes. It's important in that case to make sure that we're making a strong, compelling connection to the whole idea as we present it.
Excellent. Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I love your point there around some of the complex or multi-material solutions like the built environment or others. Those may be some of the ideas where, again, if you're thinking structurally or a certain component is just really core to the success of your product, certainly prioritize that. And then if there are other areas that are a little bit easier to fill in the blank, where you have a bit more of a developed concept of how that might work, especially if perhaps that particular portion of your product is not utilizing Nike Grind material, we want you to focus on the characteristics that will utilize.
And an emphasis of the prototyping process is to receive feedback as quickly as possible. So if your first initial prototypes a specific characteristic of the product to gather feedback and better inform the future iteration, that's a great way to think about moving through the prototyping process as well, is how can you best seek out user feedback? You test some of the assumptions baked into your idea as it stands. And as more questions do arise, please do send those to us. And if there are more materials related, we're excited to address those on a follow-up webinar. We wanted to revisit this slide to ground again in the deadline that is approaching on July 16th, and that this is where we are in the refinement phase, just a few weeks in. And as you do, again, have more questions or want to get in touch with our team, please feel free to send us an email at circular@ideo.com. Thank you so much to Eric and Henry over at Nike and Chris for joining us. And it's been a pleasure to see all of your faces finally on one call. Congratulations again on advancing into the refinement phase. And we are so excited to continue working alongside you and supporting your process.